Hello, angels of the internet. I am currently doing a fun little photo shoot. I was thinking lately about how everything good that I've ever made has always come from self-amusement, and I realized that I want to be having more fun day to day, and I made a list of things that I could do just for fun with no end goal. And I think it's really fun sometimes to dress up like you're 13 and put on a fun outfit and plan a little photo shoot. So I put out all the things I love, my guitar, my synthesizer, and I'm just having fun. I have other things on the list that I can share with you guys. For example, playing my guitar just because, not because I'm trying to get a song perfect. I think everything that we do these days is all about the end goal, and yeah, I want to just have fun, because if I'm having fun, then I think people can feel that. And a lot of times what I used to do when I would be making something is I would just do it for myself and then turn on the camera, and then I'd look back at the footage and I'd be like, this merits being shared, you know. And I feel like we have to bring back DIY in the sense of I'm doing it for myself. Do it your way and make it fun, you know? But speaking of romanticizing your life, there's a video topic that I've been wanting to do for a while that I thought that I would talk to you guys about today. One of the questions I get the most often is, what are tips for somebody that wants to quit their day job to do art full time? Because I think that we have this very romantic view of what it means to be an artist, and if you're doing something on the side, then it makes you less of an artist. I want to encourage you guys to see things in a different way and to realize that your dreams can start now, wherever you are. You could be working part-time at a grocery store, you could still be in school, and you can still follow your dreams. You don't have to quit everything to do that. And I think that actually maybe the best option is to have a job on the side, and I'm going to tell you why. Kind of like what I'm doing today with this photo shoot. I feel like sometimes the less pressure we put on the things that we're making, the more we can actually enjoy it. Once money enters into the picture and you're like, well, I have to sell this many paintings, I have to do this many prints, I need to know this person or this person, then you're sort of cut off from your creativity in this sense, and your abundance. Because for me, abundance comes from feeling free and not having those constraints on your creativity. But I asked you guys recently on my Instagram, what are the emotional costs of making art for a living? And I got so many amazing responses. For example, something that people don't talk about is how lonely it can be. Not just loneliness in a physical sense, but loneliness when you are the only one carrying your project. And I think a lot of times there's sort of two directions you can take. You can either be a DIY artist like myself, take care of all the marketing and promoting yourself like I do with my YouTube channel, my Instagram, or you can go with a gallery and try to get grants and things like that. But both options have their limitations, because if you're doing everything yourself, you feel the pressure of being the one to motivate yourself all of the time, you know? And if you go the gallery route, then you're sort of always under somebody else is kind of controlling your career in a sense. And I actually read something recently about how 50% of women who start out in the art world are considering giving it up. And I think the reason is because in art school, we teach how to make art and how to think about your art process, etc. But we don't talk about how to sustain a creative career. And I think part of sustaining a creative career is being honest with yourself about that monetary aspect of things. For example, I follow a lot of TikTokers who do print clubs, and you know, they post about their prints that they sell every month, and they get to do it full time, but it seems like their day-to-day just turns to running to the post office all the time, and they don't have as much time for their creativity. And I'll be honest and say that most of my friends that are really successful artists, they all have side jobs, whether that is teaching, whether that is working at a cafe. And so I want to encourage you guys that it's not shameful to have a side job, and you don't need to quit it in order to become something. You are already that something. And I'm not interested in being for example, like a full-time artist for life and having that title. I'm interested in being able to sustain a creative practice for life. We have a lot of times this shame in our culture around like, what do you do really? And I don't think that what we do should be defined by how we make money. It should be defined by what lights us up on the inside, our passion, our creativity, you know? And I think like my mind has changed a lot about that over the last few years. Deciding to launch myself and realizing there's so many different ways of doing something, but you have to do it your way and you have to make it fun. And you have to decide for yourself, what is the lifestyle I want to have? You know, like, do I want to be just like alone all the time in my studio making things? Or do I want to have a side job that could potentially add a lot of structure to your life? For example, if you are teaching 2 to 3 days a week on the side, that actually can give you a lot of structure day to day, because you're like, well, I know on those days I'm focused on the work at the school, and then when I get off, I have my time to create. And it adds a lot of texture as well, in the sense of you're seeing people, you know what I mean? My mom recently retired and she was talking about this, how yeah, like she's happy to be retired, but it is weird when you don't have like people to see. For someone like me specifically who's more introverted, I really like this lifestyle, and I like having YouTube as sort of like a supplement to my artistic career, because I really enjoy like filming and making videos, and so this is like the perfect thing to go along with it. And I know a lot of people's dreams are to become YouTubers, and that was never my dream. I just saw it as like a tool, social media as a tool to do this. So if you are someone who's like, okay, Shayna, like I listened to the whole thing, but I still want to be free from like a regular job, I would say like if you want to do something like this that is more like DIY instead of like going the gallery route, I think like the important thing is, if you want to like launch yourself on social media and use that as a tool to promote your art, to become very comfortable with storytelling, sharing your life, and also comfortable with the idea that some people aren't going to take you as seriously. For example, I think when people see me making art or doing paintings, the fact that I do social media, a lot of times they might think, well, she only sells her stuff because of social media. But I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with people having that thought. I'm okay with people maybe not taking me as seriously because I don't have like, you know, big art shows or things like that. Because for me, what was important to me was having freedom in multiple different mediums. For example, I love to do music, I love painting, I love all types of things. And I feel like in France especially, like there's a lot of pressure to niche yourself down. I went to a dinner party the other day and I told someone I was an artist, and they're like, so like what do you do? Like, do you do sculpture, performance, whatever? And I was like, yeah, I do all of that. And they're like, we're so confused. They're like, how do you do all of it? And I'm like, I do all of it because I'm a DIY artist and I can do whatever the fuck I want. Because when you decide that you're going to be the one in charge of your own sort of time and your own, you know, career trajectory, you don't have to niche yourself down. And I think it's the same when you reject a gallery system and like an old dinosaur trying to tell you how to do your career, and you decide to have like a side job, you become financially independent enough that you don't have to rely on other people to make your dreams a reality. Because, you know, having money on the side, it helps you to buy materials, it helps you to have freedom in your creative practice. So I wanted to make this today because I think that there is this misconception that if I'm not doing what I love full time, that I haven't made it. But it's just totally not true. Continue working whatever job you need to make in order to sustain your creative practice. Being an artist isn't about only making art, it's about continuing to make your art. So, hope that can inspire you. Make it fun, do it your way, make it fun. I've kind of gone down a rabbit hole and I have more thoughts on this, but my battery is dying, so I'm gonna continue this video tomorrow. I love this color her green. Look at Kelly green. It's the next day, and I thought we could continue on with the conversation because I have so much more to say, but I ran out of battery. While I work in my sketchbook, I've been taking this Skillshare class on sketchbooking. I love taking classes with them. I've taken so many because it just helps me to stay creative and inspired, and I can take whatever creative class that I want. And this one I'm taking is all about sketchbooking and how to see your sketchbook as fun. This one in particular is about filling your sketchbook and finding doorways to creativity. And what I realized is one of my doorways to creativity is many different images. Like, I love collaging. Something I've learned from the class is not to judge yourself by your sketchbook. Your sketchbook is supposed to be a place for you to play. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, so thank you so much to Skillshare for partnering with me on this video. So if you don't know, Skillshare is the largest online learning platform for creatives. They have thousands of classes on there, from music production to singing to how to make videos. Whatever you're interested in, they have a class on there for you. I think it's really great if you're someone like me who is interested in a ton of different things, or maybe you don't want to go back to school and sort of want to learn at your own pace, pick up a class, come back to it, and re-watch the class as well. There's so many classes that I've re-watched to brush up on my skills. Skillshare is actually offering the first 500 people to use my link down below a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, which I think is a perfect amount of time to go on there, see what kind of different classes that they have, and get inspired for yourself. So thank you so much to Skillshare. So what I like to do is I actually collect old papers from different paintings that I've done that I maybe like messed up, and then I will save them in this sketchbook and then make them into something else over time. And like I said, like a big doorway to me, to my creativity, something that inspires me is recycling materials. Like, I love to get like fake flowers or old photos and make something new out of it. I'm very interested in how like material plays together. So I thought, while I am sort of junk journaling, that we could continue our conversations from yesterday. And something that I wanted to talk about is like go deeper on the different paths that you can take as a creative, because I think, like I said earlier in the video, what we want to do is be able to sustain our creative career. And I want to talk about like some side jobs that you could have as a creative that I think are really good, and sort of my experiences with them. Of course, social media is one of them. If you're a good storyteller and you want to connect to an audience, I think it also does two things. It is a great way to share your art. For example, you guys are the first to know when I come out with a new print or when I have a painting, and a lot of people who have found my art have done so through my social media. So I think that is a really great side hustle. However, it can like easily turn into a full-time job itself. When you're first starting out, like if you don't have traction yet, you could just be like, well, this feels like another thing that I'm not making money at first, you know? So when I first started out, well, let me back up. When I was in university, I was working so much. I had a full-time job with school, and then I was working on the weekends, like double shifts at a burger joint. And I remember writing in my notes app one day, exhausted. You need to figure out how you're going to sustain this, because I just felt like it was way too much. And I realized there's certain jobs, jobs and side hustles that are really good for a creative career, and some that aren't. And I think for me, working in a restaurant, because I had sort of social anxiety, which I know sounds weird coming from somebody who does YouTube, but for example, when I was a waitress, I would get like severe social anxiety, and it would really, I was just a bad waitress, because I don't know why, like I wanted the tables to have a good experience with me, and I think like the high pressure of that really drained me. And so when I would get home, I'd be absolutely exhausted. So when I was in school, I promised myself, I was like, we're gonna find something else that can sustain us. And one of the jobs that I really enjoyed, and I think can be a really amazing side hustle, is being a nanny, because the kids are really playful, and they just bring you so much inspiration. And I got to sort of plan my days, and I had a really good sort of way of managing it as well, because what I did was I found another nanny in the neighborhood who had kids around the same age as the kids that I was watching. And what we would do is like meet in the afternoon, bring our kids, and then the kids would play together and we would talk, and obviously we're still watching the kids, but we got to go to museums together. And especially if you're living in a foreign country, for example, me living in France, I would typically watch the kids in English, and I felt like the pay was way better than I think like getting a nanny job in the US. Like if ever you have a foreign language that you can use, the pay is so good. So I think that being a nanny, caring for children, if you enjoy kids, is a really great side hustle. Another as well is teaching online. I have two friends, they're a couple, and they do music, and on the side they tutor classes online, and they're able to sustain their lifestyle like that. So they give different classes, and apparently that's like super flexible. So teaching is another really good one, especially if you can teach something in your field. For example, if you do music, you can give music classes, or if you know, are into painting, you can give painting classes. The only thing that I sort of worry about that is I feel like if you're doing a job on the side of your artwork that takes up a lot of your creative energy, I do worry that like when you get home, did you drain all of that creative energy away? And so that's why I sort of lean towards more manual jobs as well, when you're like working with your hands and it's not too, you don't have to think too much, you don't have to use like a lot of your creative energy. I'd love to hear from you guys as well. If you are a creative, what kind of side job do you have? I think the real key and the people who like really figured it out are the ones that are able to understand like what are their lifestyle goals and finding something that can complement that. For example, you might be somebody that doesn't mind having enough money to like go to restaurants or go traveling. All you want is to have enough money to make your art. Then you could probably sustain yourself doing a part-time job, like working at a cafe or doing something like that. Then there's other people that feel like they might want to have more money, like to save up or to do even bigger projects. You know what I mean? And so I know some people, for example, who will work like 3 months full-time, like even more than full-time, like 50 hours a week, put that money aside, and then have like a few months to really concentrate on their art. Because I think what we really want to avoid is burnout. And I think that is the biggest obstacle when you're somebody that decides to do it yourself, DIY, and why I'm trying so hard to implement fun back into my life and projects that are just projects for me. For example, working in my sketchbook, or doing like stupid little photo shoots, or yeah, like I like to schedule in fun time where I'm not thinking, because I think the time when you're not thinking seriously about something is when you get some of the best ideas. And I think something for me, like I struggled with a lot these past years, is feeling like I'm like constantly changing hats. For example, I have my hat on when I'm responding to emails and when I'm ordering prints and doing more administrative tasks, and then I switch into my creativity hat, and I feel like I have a really hard time switching hats. It's like I almost figured out that I do much better when I have like days for different things. For example, okay, this is my day for all of my administrative work, this is my filming day, this is my like fun, I'm gonna see people day. Because I think like the exhaustion doesn't really come from the tasks themselves, but it comes from having to constantly switch gears. And I think like that is something that I want to be really mindful about in the next chapter going forward with my creative career. And I think a lot about myself, like where do I see myself in the next, I don't know, like 10 years? Like, do I see myself getting older and still doing this YouTube channel? And it's been a question that has come up a lot, and I think something that I really realized is I really love this community, and I think like having a community in your own little place on the internet is so important. So I think I'll always try to maintain that community. But if it gets to a point where monetarily it feels more stressful than
it should feel like for example, if it would be less stressful for me to have a side job at a cafe or teaching than it is to sustain a YouTube channel as well, then maybe I would think about switching, because I always want like this job to also be working for me. And for example, I get a lot of questions like, why do you take sponsorships? And I kind of just want to say that a lot of people get it, you know what I mean? But some people don't understand that like doing YouTube and doing social media is also like a full-time job. You know, it takes a lot of time to edit the videos, and if there's no sponsorships and no partnerships, then there's no YouTube channel. You know, like there might have been a period back in like, I don't know, like 2021 where you could just like live off of the views of a channel. But now I do work with brands in order to keep doing this channel, you know, and I always really try to work with brands that align with what I do. For example, Skillshare and creativity. I also have tried every single brand that I work with, and maybe you don't like certain brands or they don't align with you, but if you, I don't know, for me personally, like if I'm watching a creator and I don't particularly vibe with a sponsor, but I like the creator and what they're doing and I want them to be able to keep creating, then I'll just pass on that video. But I did just want to say that like, I think that we're all just out here, you know, especially when you're juggling different hats, trying to survive and do our best. And I think another thing that I've really been trying to work on is to have cultivated a sort of home base of optimism. For example, if one day one of my revenue streams go away, for example, if YouTube goes away, then there's something better that's going to open up for me, or maybe that moment in my path has come to an end and it like opens me up to something else. And I think it's the same way with our careers as creatives. I think sometimes we have a lot of pressure to want to stick to one medium or stick to one way of doing things because that's what's worked for us in the past. But I think it's really important to not box ourselves in by being comfortable and always wanting to follow the fun. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing that is one of the biggest threats when you quit everything and just decide to do your art, is you can become a puppet for the people wanting to buy your art. If you notice that some people are really into your figurative stuff, but you're really enjoying making the abstract stuff, I think sometimes what we tend to do is lean more towards what's selling instead of what our heart really wants. And so we start making from a place of fear instead of abundance. And I think about that a lot. I'm like, what do I actually really want to be making? Like, what is challenging me? What is inspiring me? Like, I know I had a moment like that when I decided to extend my performance practice and start doing music. I was like, I'm really inspired by doing music, but like music? I had just turned 30, never done music before. And I talked about recently that like all of the music in my videos now, I do myself on my synthesizer. And that's been like a really fun way to even like edit my YouTube videos. I'm like, how can I make YouTube more fun for myself? How can I do it my way and make it fun? And I think like the big issue that we have with like social media these days is there seems to be a recipe. For example, if you go on Instagram, every fucking reel has like these like huge pastel text over it, and so there's this pressure to fit yourself into a box, whether that's with your paintings or the things you're doing. You see it working for somebody and you think, okay, I'm going to fit myself into this box so that I'm promoted so people will see me. And I think that's the thing that we want to avoid, and why I think that giving yourself that freedom by having your own side thing that can finance whatever you're doing is one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself. I always do this where like, I'm gonna film a video while I'm making stuff, and then I just end up like chatting with you guys. Oh my gosh, by the fucking way. Okay, so there's a few exciting things happening. So last week, I was having a rough week, but I decided every day to be optimistic. I was like, no matter what, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna make life fun for ourselves. And I would always like meditate and be like, something big's coming in. that night I sold a painting that I almost painted over because I'm like, this has been sitting on my website for a year. Nobody wants this painting. And I think that's a big lesson, is like when you put things out there, they might not sell right away, but they're probably gonna do well one day. So don't cut yourself short. So that's one thing. But I don't know if you guys remember the video I posted called Men Ruin Everything, where I talk about how ex-friend of mine, this guy, was going to rent me out his art studio, but then it turns out that actually he had ulterior motives in renting me the art studio. I never named his name, but in the beginning of the video I was filming in the studio because I was renting it. And you can't see any of his stuff in the video, by the way, but he got that video taken down because he said you could see his maquettes in the background. Bullshit. He just wanted to like harm me. But I'm unbreakable, by the way. I was like, great. So not only do I not have the art studio that I was planning on having, this person's fucked up and got my video taken down, and I can't even express myself. But I decided lately what I've been doing is just like protecting my peace and being like, you know what, I trust that it doesn't even matter because it's just one video. I'm gonna put out tons of videos and it's just not worth it to like dispute the claim, and like it could just get messy. You know what, it doesn't matter because my future is bright no matter what. And as soon as I had that thought that morning, guess what? I got a message from a really kind girl telling me that she is leaving her studio for a month and a half, and do I just want to have her studio for free for a month and a half? And I'm like, thank you, angels, thank you, God, thank you, universe, and thank you to myself for always choosing to have a mindset of positivity and abundance. Not always. This has been like a few days. I've like reinstated. Here's the thing, it's like I try to have a really good mindset of spiritual hygiene, and then you kind of forget, and then you like come back to it. But that's the beautiful thing, is you can always come back to it. And why do I mention this? Because this is the spirit of abundance that I want to have, always want to have, and encourage you guys to have around your art. Shitty things are going to happen. Shitty things are going to happen in your personal life. Shitty things are going to happen around your career at certain points, disappointments, lost projects, lost connections, lost opportunities. But always remember that it's your ability to protect your peace and believe that everything is happening for you, and that is the real win. The real win is when things go wrong and we're able to keep our cool and say it doesn't even matter because there's so many other great things coming my way. I don't care. You know what I mean? And to tie this back into like keeping a side job, I think a lot of us, you know, we have this lack mindset, and we think that if we're doing something that isn't creative, then it's contributing to this lack mindset. But actually, I think that it creates a rhythm to your week and to your life. And it's what I'm doing with my YouTube channel as well. It's my own sort of side job in a way. And anyway, I want to encourage you guys to feel like you're enough today, and you don't have to fit yourself into the box of what it means to be an artist to make it, you know, because you've already made it, bitch. You've made it, I've made it, we've made it, and like everything is just golden for us. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, unbreakable, everyone loves us, we're just having so much fun, and that is our energy, babe. So I hope that this video can inspire you to keep creating and creating in your way. And I'd encourage you to journal and ask yourself, what does success mean to me? What does a life of freedom, both financially and creatively, mean to me? That's a great journal entry, I feel like, for tonight. It's like, what would it mean for me to be successful? And I think something for me that I always kept forgetting was part of success to me is also like having the mindset that no matter what, I'm gonna be okay. And that the universe, whatever you want to call it, is abundant, and I always have more than enough of what I need. And real richness comes from a mindset of peace. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Protect your peace, girls. Protect your peace. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it could be inspirational to you guys. Do a fun little photo shoot with yourself, journal, sketchbook, whatever you need to do to feel good, you do that thing, okay? I love you guys so much. If you're interested, I still have prints that I dropped recently down on my website, the Roses from Women prints, and I'm also restocking the I'm Afraid of Nothing anymore prints because I've gotten like 20 restock requests. But if you guys did a restock request, I really hope that you actually buy them because then I order them and they're here. So anyway, thank you for watching. Keep doing you. Love you. And I'll see you very soon on the Purple Palace. Bye!